Hey, all, we're going to go ahead and get started in a few minutes here. So if you'd like, please wrap up your networking and come on and take a seat. There's quite a few seats still available up front if you guys would like a front seat, and we're going to get started shortly. Thanks. All right, everyone. There's a few more seats up front. We've got 2 up here. All right, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started so I can have all of your guys' attention. All right. Thank you all for coming out. Oh, I guess we'll cut the music, yeah. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Chelsea Villalobos. I am one of the event organizers for Tech in Motion. We're really excited to have you all out here this evening. Glad you guys are all able to make it in. If any of you guys have friends that were unable to make it tonight, we do have it live streamed. The live stream has already started. You can actually go to our meetup page, or you can go, if you get any of our meetup emails, it's on there as well, and share that with them. Before we get started, we do have just a few announcements. The first one is our event tonight is partnered with Shores Editorial, as well as JobSpring Partners and Workbridge Associates. First, I'd like to bring up Cheryl and Shani for a quick moment to just give you guys a little bit of information about Shores Editorial before we get started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tech Panel event. Just again, like Chelsea said, I'm just going to give you just a real quick overview of what we do. So I'm with Shores Editorial Services. I'm one of the co-founders. We're based here in Orange County. We have a roster of editors and writers that specialize in computer science, AI, intelligent systems content. So we partner with our clients to really, on any editorial needs they have, whether it's grant proposals, tech reports, white papers, thought leadership blogs. Our current clients right now include IEEE, World Bank, Synopsys. We've also even worked with Adobe to craft their editorial guidelines and their image guidelines for their digital marketing blog. So pretty much any editorial needs of tech companies or the university, we work with dissertations. So anything that anyone here might need, you can go ahead and contact us. My partner, Shani, and I are at the table in the back. So hope you enjoy your event and hope to talk with you soon. Thank you.
And then for most of you that come to our events, you know that JobSpring Partners and Workbridge Associates are the founders of Tech in Motion. We're actually an IT staffing agency. We're IT staffing agency sister companies, but we're located in 11 cities across North America. We have a location here in Orange County that specifically places IT professionals here in Orange County. So if you are currently hiring, are looking for a new addition to your team, can't find anyone, we can be of service to you. We also assist in both contract and full-time placements. And if you're on the other side of that, you're looking for a position, we work with all levels of companies, from startups all the way up to Fortune 500. So if you're interested, please speak out in the back. Is this on? Oh, out in the back. And yeah, thanks for attending the event.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name is Harrison. I'm the other Tech in Motion event organizer. Just a quick logistical thing here. If you have any questions, please wait until the end. There will be a 15-minute Q&A. So at the end of the panel, if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll come around with a microphone so everyone can hear what you have to say. Oh yes, and then our next event will be the Timmy Awards coming up in September. This is our 3rd annual Timmy Awards, recognizing the best places for tech professionals to work in Orange County. There are 4 award categories this time. You have the Best Tech Manager, Best Tech Work Culture, Best Tech Startup, and Best Tech Workplace for Diversity. And nominations are now open, so if you would like to nominate your company or your manager, you can do so by going to our meetup page, and there's a link on our Timmy Awards event. So now I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening, Neil Sahota. Neil is a quadruple UCI alumni and is currently an IBM Master Inventor and Worldwide Business Development Leader in the IBM Watson Group. He's also a member of Tech Coast Angels, where he assists startups with investor funding, and he lectures at the UCI Paul Mirage School of Business. Please join me in welcoming Neil.
Thanks for the introduction. Now I know why I feel so tired. How are you guys doing?
called
You
life.
guys don't sound good. Are you excited to be here? Yeah. You guys are the lucky 200 that got in. We've got a great panel for you guys. So I'm going to kind of kick it off. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to give maybe like a 1-minute overview about who they are, what their name is, who they are. And I love asking an icebreaker question, so you're going to get to know people. I'm going to ask you to answer the question, what is your favorite animated television show? I'm going to put you on the spot, Andrew.
Thundercats. Is that good? Do you approve?
No judgment from me.
Was that like before or after your generation?
Oh, all right. I know who's
It's
getting the hard.
before-
I know,
it's before.
I know who's getting the hard questions now. All right, but take a minute to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Andrew Bermudez. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Digsy. Very simple. What we do is we use artificial intelligence to really help salespeople outdo their competitors. Really, we help them figure out what actually works in the sales process, so they can do more of it. And then we basically, literally like Legos, set a path for them, so like they never have to forget or think about what they need to do to close more deals.
All right, thanks. Eric?
Yeah, I'm Eric Huberman, founder and CEO of Hawk Media. We're basically an outsourced CMO and marketing team to companies. So we go into different brands, identify where the holes are in their marketing organization. And we have a little over 100 people up in Santa Monica that have all different expertise, from email marketing, Facebook search, influencer, web design, et cetera, that we can just identify those holes and actually take over those aspects of businesses.
And by the way, it was before his generation, so I'm older.
Touche. And I was going to say South Park. I forgot the answer to
South
that.
Park, yeah.
I'm going to go right for it, right down the middle.
1 vote for Thundercats, 1 vote for South Park. All right. Tony?
I'm Tony Saris. I'm the founder and principal of Into Semantics, which is a semantic technology and AI consulting firm. As you can probably tell from the gray and white hair, I've been around in AI for a number of years. I actually started before the AI winter came. So I worked originally in expert systems and rule-based systems. During the AI winter, I worked in a lot of metadata technologies. Since then, I've been working with a lot of text analysis, text extraction, knowledge graphing sorts of technologies for both startups and enterprises, as well as working with content assistance and other sort of intelligent assistance and virtual assistance technology, which is really my passion. In terms of animated programs, it would be The Simpsons, definitely. I have a son who is modeled after Bart Simpson.
All right, thanks. John?
Hi, I'm John Fitch. I am a platform programmer. I built the background for PS4. A lot of the AI bot simulations that you guys have hated in games, probably. Worked on the Oculus VR platform, and I'm currently working on sensors and body integrations for detecting things going on in our physical environment. And my favorite animated show is hands down Ghost in the Shell, not the movie.
Oh,
Standalone
that's a
complex,
good one.
The series.
Yeah.
All right.
Before it came to America, I'm sure. Yeah, good.
So just based on the cartoon answer, good diversity on the panel. All right, with that, I often hear from people like, hey, what is AI and how do you get started? What can I do with it? So I'm going to ask each of you, tell us a little bit more about your background and how did you actually wind up getting involved with AI? And this time I'll kick it off with Eric.
Sure. Show of hands, who here knows who XPRIZE are, the organization XPRIZE? Not a lot. Check it out because it's a really awesome nonprofit. But I was actually with the CEO, Marcus Shingles, who used to run innovation at Deloitte. And his job was basically to talk to companies about what was disrupting them. And so he couldn't help it. He looked at me and said, okay, so what's the Uber to your taxi company? You've got a marketing consultancy, basically. What's going to disrupt you? And I said, honestly, I think, it's going to be a while before AI gets to a place that it can replace a marketing professional because of the nuances of the creativity side. But at some point, it does start to happen. And he went, well, why aren't you building that then? And that's how I got kicked off into figuring it out.
That definitely sounds like Marcus.
Exactly.
Cool. Tony?
I got started with a company that was based here in Orange County called Ontological Technology. And I was working in enterprise modeling at the time and in database modeling, database schema, design, and development of databases. They were trying to basically take enterprise models and sort of get underneath them and really look at what were the foundational concepts that were under those enterprise models, and could they automate those underlying components and basically be able to create intelligent assistants or intelligent systems that would help people in cognitive tasks, particularly in the aerospace industry, in the medical field, and intelligent transportation systems. So I worked for a number of years in really trying to take models and make models smart. And that's still what I'm doing to some degree now, but working with machine learning technologies to induce models and then to curate those models and use them in intelligence.
All right. John?
Probably got my start, it was a stutter start twice. Once was the IRC drop bots and gaming bots back in the 90s, and I lost my passion probably mid-2000s. And what made me pick it back up in AI specifically was seeing not only the automation coming in DevOps and the frustration of, hey, why can't we just have a tablet to drag and drop and do this? But then Andrew Ng's programs and some of the convolutional network of teaching bots to walk in virtual environments brought me into my current state of interacting and working with.
Great. You know, AI is such a hot topic today. You mind sharing a little bit about why you lost your passion?
Really, it was as he was saying, the AI winter. There was no forward momentum. No one was developing new software libraries. The bots were stupid. Gamers hated them. People hated interacting with them. And there wasn't a lot of new modeling or research going on towards things like natural language programming or vision or any type of interactive languages.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was a tough time. Andrew?
Yes.
That was a
I'm kidding.
answer.
I'm kidding. It's different for me because I was in a sales role for a long time. I used to be a programmer before I got into sales. And the way that we've been implementing this in sales is salespeople just want to chat. Like they just want to talk to people on the phone, or they want to email people. They want to do that. And they don't really want to log stuff into Salesforce. That makes sense. It's a lot of problems. It just seems administrative. So what we did was we figured out a way to just, with the APIs and Office 365, Gmail, and everything, you can just do this stuff in the background. And with Twilio or with ShoutPoint, which ShoutPoint's great, by the way, you can actually do a lot of this stuff and just do it in the background. But what it gives you a glimpse from an analytical point of view into what you're doing that's right. So the way that I got into artificial intelligence was, why do I have to struggle remembering after a call to follow up with somebody? What if I just completely effed up and forgot to do that, and it's an important contact? Like, if it's an important contact, like, the machine should be able to help me see what the cadence was between us in a certain stage, and allow me to not forget to follow up with this hot prospect. And that's how Digsy AI came about. It's like, hey, this is not only your assistant, but it's a way for you to, like, not drop the ball, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Let me toss out something to the audience here for a moment, right? You're all here because you want to learn more about AI. How many people here, by a show of hands, think they can actually define what AI means?
This is an unfair question.
I told you I was going to do the hard ones.
Yeah.
You can define it? All right, I won't put you on the spot, but how would you define it? He says that artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity. So that's kind of like the old saying that the only difference between genius and insanity is that genius has a limit. But I'm going to put the panel on the spot here for a second, and maybe you can share what you think your definition of AI is. So I'll start with you, Tony.
I would say it's any attempt to use a computerized system to somehow or other do the same tasks that people do from a cognitive perspective. And I don't think you have to do that by modeling the brain. I think you can do that, through a number of different ways.
Yeah.
Patterns, rules, things like that, or wetware emulation kinds of things. But it's at least an attempt to systematize what people do as a sort of cognitive task.
So you're saying it's almost like it's sort of mimicking the way a human would think?
That's where I think certainly we're headed with AI. I mean, that's the goal ultimately, right?
Okay. And I think that's very spot on. John?
I kind of define AI pre-consciousness and post-consciousness. Pre-consciousness, I think it's a series of input and sensors shared collaboration. I think it goes much beyond human construct in the fact that the old Battletech robots with bipodal legs are inefficient on a real battlefield. I don't want to model something that's going to be better than me based on me. The post-consciousness, I hope, models itself to be better than we are.
All right. Andrew?
What they said.
You don't have anything you want to add?
No, I do. No, I do. I was just trying to,
You're buying some time?
I'm just being myself.
Thinking about Thundercats?
Pre or post? Tell me. Thunder. We'll talk about this later. Okay, so yeah, it's a lot of that actually. It's about mimicking, but if you really think about it, like if you have a microwave, right? And you can put food in the microwave and emulate what you would do over 2 hours, that's very powerful stuff. And the way that I look at it, even though it's completely out of control, it's the way that I look at AI is almost like a microwave. It's like this thing that can super enhance our time, can super enhance the way that we make decisions and things like that. But because it's got computing power, we can realize a lot of things much faster than we ever could. Imagine walking up to the machine and goes, hey, by the way, here's the shortest path to money. And then you try it, and it's got millions of data sets, and then you try it. So the winners will actually, at the beginning, Neil, I think you'll agree with this, the beginnings will win very, very quickly, but then the red queen problem comes up. And that's something that I don't think you guys were planning to talk about. The red queen problem is the biggest thing. You know what the red queen problem is? So once everybody starts adopting something, guess what? Now you've got the new commodity. So if you jump into AI faster, you will outperform. So that's why you have to be an innovator out of the gate.
Eric?
So it's funny because Tony actually brought up something that I've noticed the past couple years, what's used to be called either advanced automation or machine learning, et cetera, just quickly adopted AI when the press got a hold of it and marketers like me got a hold of it. We call what really is machine learning AI now, and this only happened in the past couple of years in terms of the transition. So to me, I still stick with like what traditionally was called AI, which I think we're still a decade or so away from, which is true replication of intelligence, not automation, not rules defining outcomes, but like actual thinking for itself. Maybe self-awareness and consciousness is a whole nother discussion, but when you're not defining the rules in the same way, it's actually able to define its own rules based on an overall structure, similar to how humans think in that sense, or better. I like that point, but I think that's how I define artificial intelligence, is really focused on the intelligence part and replicating its own intelligence.
Any final thoughts, John or Tony?
I think our steps towards that is going to be, to their points, interaction with those machine learning entropies. Things they're doing now in augmented reality, machine learning, et cetera, in virtual reality, where a human is interacting with the machine to teach it what to do. The reverse is going to be true, and it'll be this co-joined collaborative effort of evolution.
All right. Some pretty deep thoughts here, huh, guys? It's an interesting topic, and I'm sure some of you guys are wondering, I've already heard some great stuff, but how do I get started, right? So I'm going to ask the panel here, how did you discover the value that AI would actually bring to your company or your industry? So I'll kick it off with you this time, John.
Mine is a bit of a heart puller or a tearjerker, or an inspiring story, I don't know which. I had a brother, 12-year Army Ranger in Afghanistan. He developed stage 4 cancer, come home. Inspiring story. We raised $15 million for a veterans charity while he whittled away his time passing away and rucking. And the pinpoint of the story is he went 8 months visiting a doctor twice a month before a tumor exploded in his intestine, complaining of intestinal pain, getting checked out, being looked at. And I went, a fucking Fitbit, sorry the language. I get a little passionate there. But a Fitbit could have told me what was going on. And that started my true, I'm going to code this. I am going to be part of this sensor AI function. And the fact that I can tell you everything that's going on in your bank account, the fact I can tell you when your engine or your hard drive is going to fail, and I can't tell you a single thing in your body still frustrates me. And that was what got me into it. I went straight to YouTube, I went straight to GitHub, I went to chat rooms. I got people smarter than me, and that's how I learned.
Wow. Wow. Andrew?
Yes.
Was it Thundercats inspired?
No, it's actually like the necessity is the mother of all like invention, really. So by the way, I'm Hispanic, so English is my second language. So just know that. So it takes me a little bit to shift.
Can't tell.
I know you can. So anyway, for us, it was really different. It was, it's more about the human condition, right? So we're always so busy. We're always thinking about things. Like we always want to measure things, but the time to measure post the fact becomes work. And we just knew this because like I was in sales for such a long time, and once you're able to just make it like something in the backdrop, right? Like something that just happened, like history. Imagine if you could just like reel back people's memories, like it would give you a lot of data, right? But then you have to like put these pillars. So for me, it was more like my personal experience and having to struggle through trying to measure things, and then realizing that through APIs, through Office 365, Gmail, this, that, and being able to develop a platform that would actually measure these things as they go along, we can get a lot of data. And the biggest surprise to me was, and I completely effed up in my entire sales career, I would leave voicemail. As we spread our technology through different sales organizations, the top salespeople would never leave voicemail. And I was wondering why. So then we talked to them, and they go, look, if I leave a voicemail that's 2 calls, I can just go from one call to the next call, and somebody picks up. And if they don't pick up, that's fine. But at some point in time, they're going to realize, like, who the hell is this phone number? I got to pick it up. And that for me, and I did very well in my sales career, right? I was top 5 of the top 10. And I think I would have crushed my competition knowing that we got this data, but you just gotta make things in a way to like fade in the background, because like the one thing that AI can do, it's like that calculator that you got as a kid. That's all it is. It's a calculator, and it's a calculator that it just runs in the background. And when you need to summon it, it actually can give you a lot of data and insight. And if you're not the greatest person to interpret the information, there's somebody out there that can do that. But it's very powerful. It's very, very powerful. When the biggest thing I think about AI that most people don't realize, and I think both of you would agree with this, is pattern recognition. That is the #1 thing that AI does for us, which we cannot do as humans because those are thousands of data inputs. But pattern recognition is the #1 thing. What if you figured out like, oh, your top salespeople don't leave voicemail? Your numbers are gonna go up, and we've proved this. Numbers are gonna go up. But what if you realize that like, hey, by the way, your top salespeople prospect 50% of the time on the phone, regardless of whether it's a cell phone or anything else, and you can track that, which we can, and you're able to like realize different things. And that's when the machine starts adjusting. But I hope you get to the Red Queen problem. which I don't think you will. But the one thing is, once everybody figures this stuff out, now it becomes a new platform. Now you just erase everything. It's just like, remember before cell phones? Most of you may not remember, but I didn't have a cell phone. Cell phones weren't around when I was born. So once you get the cell phone, then you get this thing, you get the next generation, you get the next generation, then you get the smartphone, and you're like, okay, Palm Trail sucks, but it's useful. So you get there, but then you get the iPhone, like reinvents the whole thing. But now you're able to do a lot of things. But guess what? The iPhone just basically obliterates everything that was exclusive to so many people that was not accessible to them because of ease of use. It might be different ideas, but if you think it's going to help your business, get in early and then try. Like if you are in the industry, you have to really innovate outside of that, because Neil, that's what you guys are doing at IBM actually. You really, really have to think about this. Like, new inventions are old.
You want to elaborate on that last point?
New inventions are old. We can text message people. We can call them too. How many people actually call their friends? Okay, that sucks. I wish I was back in the 80s, because I love hearing my wife's voice, but she texts me.
Is she watching the live stream?
Yeah, everyone's watching Twitch instead of calling.
No, it would be great if she's watching the live stream, because I would love to hear her voice, yeah.
Well, hopefully she's going to call you right now. All right, Eric?
So question was how to get into it.
Yeah, how'd you
how'd I
discover the value that AI would bring?
Yeah, so again, like really it was an easy conversation because I paid somewhat attention. I have friends that are very well read on Kurzweil, who has I know a lot of different opinions on what his thoughts are on AI, but it was still an interesting perspective. So I followed suit and read up on what he was saying about the timelines of AI and progression. And again, realized like, okay, so I'm running a business that I have a lot of long-term visions for. And this, if it's right, is going to put a huge change somewhere in there where I've got, again, right now 100, but goal being in the next 4.5 years, with 1,000 people running marketing for thousands of companies around the globe. And all of a sudden, there's going to be this software that can come in and do half of their job. So I can wait around and just let that happen and let someone else, get ahead of me and be that innovator, or I can jump on it and start learning. And so started to research, like, where are things now? What can I use now to augment what we do so that we're not getting behind? And what's interesting about machine learning and AI on a marketing perspective is there's so much nuance when it comes to both the data side and the creative side of marketing that most machine learning platforms actually diminish returns. All the automation softwares we've tested on Facebook, Google, etc., don't work. They're a great way to make our job easier, but they don't actually return higher returns for our customers. So it hasn't made any sense. So we continue to watch those because at some point that transition will happen, but it's not there yet. So in the meantime, we started looking at other things. And to your point, it came down to analyzing patterns and data. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds of companies. We have thousands of companies' data. So I literally went, okay, we should store this data and start putting a layer on top of it. So went through 3 development teams to actually get that done, which is a sad story. But I'm not a developer. It's hard for me to actually manage them too. So we built that data warehouse, and then we built some visualization on top of it and started with our own kind of monitoring, trying to figure out our own patterns. And exactly that happened is we realized we just weren't going to ever be able to compete with some algorithms. And we actually decided to partner up with a company that has launched recently in LA. That the idea is to build those algorithms and machine learning and license it to all sorts of middle market companies at a very inexpensive rate, so that basically become the AI partner to all these companies that need data, medical companies, et cetera. So they've placed their algorithms. We've told them how we need, what the input and output we want. And so now we can see in real time how one company benchmarks against, 500 companies in its industry, in its size range, and what looks like success, what doesn't, et cetera, based on teaching these algorithms on what to look for. So that is kind of like our first step into it, because now that we have that, the next phase would be hopefully to start teaching that to, okay, this is how you fix those things and how to make it better, and then eventually, okay, just run it, just go for it kind of thing.
Awesome. Tony?
I guess I came to AI in a couple of different ways. One is working with enterprise clients whose processes had become so complex that they really didn't have any understanding of them. And so AI was a tool for them to help sort of understand the processes at a deeper level, and particularly to identify cases where if there was a change in one area, how would that ramify to some other area? So to get that sort of understanding and have systems be able to help them with that kind of analysis. The other thing is actually, you would think it would be very simple, but in integrating systems, connecting databases together and finding out that the things that were in those databases that people thought were the same were actually very different. So what's a contract? What's a purchase order? What's a customer? You start connecting those and you find out that those systems really don't know what those terms mean. There's no meaning behind the systems. They're operating on those data elements, but with absolutely no understanding of what they mean. So beginning to connect a bunch of systems together caused probably more problems, to your point about not being, value of doing IT in some cases. Connecting them together basically made things worse for a while, and then AI was really a way to begin to sort of add some depth and meaning behind those systems and to be able to make it a more intelligent way to connect them together.
So, some really great examples of how you guys got into it and some of the challenges involved in trying to unlock the value. AI is a word that gets thrown out a lot, right? And we typically associate that with machine learning and algorithms and analytics. Is there more to AI than just that? Is there other aspects? And if so, what have you done with it?
Can we listen to John before we jump into that question?
I thought we started with John.
Because I keep on seeing him and damn it, me and Andrew are gonna play World of Warcraft after this, and I'll take you up on that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So what we're really talking about is building expertise, and what I've done and what I've worked on. And what I mean by that, I'll start with an example, is AlphaGo. It's not the data collection, it's not the pattern analysis, it's not the interactions, it is the generating something new, generating the prisoner's dilemma, generating the crazy action to throw off the world-renowned Go player and defeating him or another computer, generating the known pattern sets. And then all of that data means nothing. Anyone who's a database engineer or deals with Spark or Scala or any high streaming data knows 1-2% of data is relative. You're really trying to establish an expertise of a reduced instruction set, an expertise and knowledge base that can be actioned upon. And how I do that, or what I work in, is I focus on reducing pattern analysis. The Air Force has done hundreds of drone simulations and every type of attack and reduced it down into a 500 kilobyte instruction set on a chip for the drone to do AI. That's what machine learning is. Now to take it past that, to evolve AI past that machine learning expertise, make it functional, we make it interactive, we start working with other machines, other people, and creating that collaboration of the expertise. I think recently in the news there was sonic fracking or explosion in the ocean, and they're trying to regulate these corporations to use the same data set instead of every corporation doing the fracking. And we have to establish something along the lines of Google, something along the lines of those shipping companies, where we are collaborating on that expertise or important information to be able to grow what we're doing currently. And for healthcare, that became extremely apparent with what I'm working on, where no one wants to share data. Everything's HIPAA compliant. And the model truly is, it has to reverse, and to use Damien's terms, Uberized, right?
Yeah.
The data needs to belong to us. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now, the way for the data to belong to us.
Yeah, so what I think, Neil, is at least for me, I don't know the rest of the panel, is about pattern recognition. That's all it is because we go about our days doing our thing, and so do our employees, so do our business partners, etc. And if you can find out what works, it's not about finding out what doesn't work, even though it's collected. So it's more about, okay, what can we figure out from what we're doing on a daily basis that we don't think about, that we cannot collect data on, which can be collected along the way to be able to leapfrog our existing situation. That's really it. And like that's what you're doing too.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's exactly what you're doing.
Well, who here has used Waze? Let's just do that.
I love
or
Waze.
Google Maps.
I got
either
here
one.
through Waze.
Who here has done it on a drive they've done every day, like a drive to work, and just tried it out and been like, oh wait, I've been driving the wrong way this entire time. Okay, so not a lot of people, but I had that experience, and I'm like, I've probably lost a minute every day for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
Because I took that street instead of that street. And you're just like, those small things, that pattern
Yeah.
recognition is like getting that more and more complex.
Traverse to that Waze keeps trying to see me down alleys that I don't want to go down.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, you should stop living in Compton, bro.
I was going to comment on your pattern recognition. I agree 100% that I think that's the key to AI is pattern recognition.
It is.
And humans do that all the time. We recognize patterns. We assign them meaning. We do classification. So, I mean, that's an inherent part of how we organize the world and our intelligence that we have. So you would expect artificial intelligence.
Well, look at a video, right? Like if you were watching a video and somebody throws up their hands in the air, you think they're either frustrated or they're celebrating.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
So it makes sense.
Right, but one of the complaints I have about all the attention on machine learning is I think a lot of the systems that are encoded based on purely statistical models, they're acting on the patterns, but the patterns aren't explicit. So, you know, those systems are being used without people really understanding what's driving them. And if the data set wasn't a representative data set, if it wasn't curated properly, if it had bias in it, then those systems may be, you know, they may seem to be running along fine with some data that they're acting on, but you could come along and get very surprised down the road, right? So I'm a big believer in taking the patterns that come out of machine learning through induction and persisting those and having humans, you know, curate them and having feedback loops in cognitive systems where you do, you know, understand where the system worked well and where it didn't work well, and you refine it over time. I think that's critical.
So that's an interesting thing. So like what we do in our company is, so you'll see these patterns behind really good salespeople. The number one thing we found out ourselves, and then we advise our clients is, hey, don't look at the data and make decisions. Look at the data as an insight. Look at it like a smoke signal that something's working, something's not working, and talk to the individuals and get some color. So they might be doing some things that like the data won't tell you because we're all human. We might not be, even if the data tells us, like, why are you calling at 9 a.m.? Well, I'm calling people from the East Coast, right? It might be things like that. But I think it's very important for us to be able to, like, find out where, like, the enemy of progress is so that we can talk about it and get to progress.
I'm going to go way too deep, so I'm going to try to keep it short.
It's okay. Hopefully you won't make me fall asleep.
No, I think I will. There's this modeling system, pybrain.org, if anyone wants to check it out. There's some cool YouTube videos on training a robot to walk or catch a ball. And it explains how programmatically black box reinforcement learning is done, et cetera. But that is kind of the core of what you're talking about. How can I trust this data, or how can I know? When you train that robot to walk in a simulation, you're missing a whole world of inputs or inferences. And as we train that robot to walk in the real world and collect new sensor, new data, or new things, that we're able to trust that data more. Everything lies in the bell curve. It's knowing what the bell curve is. As we trained real-world medical data, we ran into all those clinical problems, right? And being able to quantumly test or quantumly encrypt data against HIPAA violations required that we did the sensor or evaluation or sanitization work ahead of time to be able to trust the data to make a decision. Did the blood cuff fall off? Did the nurse or the patient unplug it? What is an anomaly, what is not? Understanding what those data points mean allows you to build the expertise and trust in that statistical curve. I hope that wasn't too boring.
So one thing though, Neil, if it's okay with you, I know you were talking about like the AI and stuff. I don't think like, I think we've given examples, but I think we're still not touching the surface of it. How many of you know exactly, besides you, man, what AI means? All right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Or, well, even not good enough stamina. Machines never sleep, and they can collaborate together. We're biased towards each other. We have difficulty collaborating, let's face it.
But that still wasn't a definition. That was an opinion. So no disrespect, but that still wasn't a definition. Okay. No. So that's a problem, though. Like, right, Neil? Like, most people, absolutely. Most people think AI is one thing. You talk to your neighbor, they think it's a different thing. And then you talk about machine learning, it's all different things. Guess what? Artificial intelligence is exactly what it means. It means something thinks and has a consciousness for itself, and it can actually make decisions. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yes. I don't know about what you think, Neil, but.
Well, let's hold off on the questions for right now.
Yeah. Right. So most people think AI is one thing. Like, literally, we have an AI company, and believe me, we're like infants when it comes to AI. But people like it, and people like it because it's making them productive, so we feel good about it. But we have a long way to go. So most people think what AI is, and like right now it's really a buzzword. It's in an infancy. Like, there's so many things, but most of the companies that are telling you they're not AI, they're not machine learning. All it is really just a set of rules saying, hey, if this and this happens, we should do it. The moment that the machine does that by itself, that's AI. That's machine learning. Most companies don't have that. And you have to understand that it's a sexy word. It's a lot of things. And like, I think we have a ways to go, but Watson's doing that. And I'm not trying to plug Watson, but Neil.
Just keep saying Watson.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the one thing is most of us think about AI. This is sexy. Like, if we say AI is this, like, literally, like, we have an AI feature in our company. Our feature goes, hey, if a sales rep has a deal and they're been communicating back and forth, and like the system like sees that all of a sudden like communication dropped off, maybe they forgot to do that, it'll surface it up to a sales rep, and our sales reps love it. Guess how much AI is in that ish? Like, this much AI compared to what we want to do. So AI is like, you have to get beyond the rules and what you think about. AI is really like hiring an employee. You tell them, or you tell him or her, you go, hey, here's the thing, and they bring you a problem, go, hey, there's a problem with this. I was thinking about all this stuff. That's intelligence. Intelligence is not a set of rules.
Neil, do you mind if I ask a poll real quick? Like a simple poll.
Go for it.
Who here thinks we've passed the Turing test? Yeah. Interesting enough, we as humans are bias conscious, are threatened by functions, but the Turing test as it was defined, Boston Dynamics has passed it. Yeah. We've actually created the Turing Olympics now because we want to redefine it. We want machines to be better. Where our consciousness wants AI to be versus where we think it'd be is continually evolving at a faster and faster rate. I think it will happen, that consciousness level or the functional level, before we even realize it's happened in some cases. But as far as the check mark, the original Turing test that was put out there, we've gone past it. We've fooled people into thinking they're interacting with humans.
Yeah, I agree with your comment about, a lot of the bots just responding to a command or a keyword, to me is not AI if that rule is just hard programmed. But I think, the goal with bots is to have them be more sophisticated so that they sort of understand the context they're operating in, and they can gauge user intention from maybe the tasks that you were doing right before you asked something, what you typically do at that time of day, where you're at. You know, they get this, they build a sort of contextual model of you, and they know your personality. And then when they start to suggest things and they start to interact with us, then I think we're at the real AI. But I think I agree with you that a lot of what we're doing today is sort of providing the building blocks or the basic layers for that. And to call that AI kind of makes people think it's something it's not. But I think it's important work that we need to do to build that out, and then to add the real intelligence on top of that as we go forward.
So Eric, you wanted to add any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean,
He said yes.
yeah, exactly.
Thundercats.
To that point, I think that AI and the engagement of it over time is going to become more of an augmentation of what we do across the board. Like we've already started using as a buzzword, AI augmented CMOs. And so the idea being like right now it's a helpful analytics tool basically, and a helpful automation tool. And over time, I think it'll take over more and more. But it's also, I think our experience with it is going to be similar to these things, where all of us have like an ongoing artificially intelligent follower that understands all our patterns and will actually help us. And it becomes kind of scary big brother at the same time. But if you want to get the benefits from it and get ahead of the game like you need to if you plan on succeeding, that's honestly, I think, where we're headed.
All right. I know we're running a little bit short on time here, so I would assume a lot of people out here in the audience are interested in using AI in some fashion or thinking about it. I don't. Are you guys still with us? You don't seem kind of quiet.
Did you guys fall asleep? It's party at Neil's house after this, by the way.
Well, I'm going to ask the panel, what advice would you give to somebody that wants to get started with using AI? And I'll start off with you, Eric.
Why do you always skip me, man?
You want to go first?
No, I'm kidding.
I'm trying to give you the chance for the last
I'm
man.
completely kidding.
I'm giving you a gift.
No, we're burning time. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, number one, I would say there's a lot of great, go read a lot on Watson, read up, like do your research, because there's a lot to dive into, but actually get educated on it, because you could go in a lot of directions in terms of that term.
All right. Tony?
I would say, particularly working with enterprise clients, is don't try to boil the ocean. I mean, that's the worst thing that can happen is if we do that, in a number of cases, we'll have another AI winter where expectations get well ahead of what the real return is on the technology. So I would encourage people to pick, a reasonably small domain to start with, one that they can show a return in a relatively quick period of time, months, a month or two or 6 months. Not a year or two, and to expect that they're going to iterate through the technologies, use of the technology. I think that's another critical thing is you're not going to get it right the first time. Make it a learning process. Try something, see where it breaks, expand it. So, make sure that you have that flexibility planned for, do lots of proofs of concept. So I think, for people who are used to working in startups, bring that mentality to an enterprise implementation. And I think that's what you have to do if AI is going to be successful and you're not going to disappoint your users. And I'll give you a case in point. I'm working with a big healthcare, the nation's largest healthcare provider, and they're trying to figure out where they can apply AI. They've got huge amounts of documents that they have to deal with constantly, most of them containing unstructured data. Some of the documents, believe it or not, aren't even digitized, so they have to do OCR to even get them in a machine-readable form. It's hard to believe where we're at, but that's the state of the industry. Once they get them there, they want to be able to do analysis of those documents and understand, what are the documents about? How can we cluster them and classify them? How can we provide, metadata behind them that'll help us search and find them easier?
You've already boiled the ocean. That's already too difficult.
No, that's a niche of the ocean. He's looking at lobster.
Yeah.
But I think, you can take any one of those pieces and start there somewhere and show some real business value.
You definitely
and then
can.
build on your success.
It's simple, I believe, because all of our hackathons, we took the sprint mentality, no more than 2 days on a proof of concept, period. And if you couldn't generate something in 2 days, usually weren't going anywhere. You could revisit. You could try another sprint a month later or something. But we were under constant hackathon and we reprioritized the product, yada yada sprint. But simple, like no matter how simple we picked a project, it always wound up being too complex. So simple as I echo. Be very careful what you select and go for the minimum effective you can. Build a bot, any kind of bot, a chat bot, a Facebook bot, anything, play with it. Before you do Andrew Ng's course, the MIT OCWs, any of those, watch some YouTube videos, grab Python notebooks, steal all the Python notebooks on Kaggle, learn how they function and interact, learn how to interact with the Python code, then go do the course, learn the background, learn the statistics, learn the math behind it, and then you'll know what inputs and inferences are when they start talking about them. You won't have a theoretical construct of a logarithm in a PDF white paper.
All right, Andrew?
Thank you, Neil. So, actually, I think Tony's going to hate me, but I think John will probably agree with this. He might kill me outside. But we've been talking about this Red Queen problem that you won't talk about, but it's actually a good thing to know. So what I really think is a lot of the problems we're facing today can be like AI is not only getting like a really good neuroscience type person like who programs depending on like whether it's Ruby or Python. Most of the guys are on Python, which is fantastic. But it's really after trying to figure out what the next step is. And as a pioneer, what I can tell you is this one thing. You're going to hate me. I think that in the next 5 to 7 years, AI is going to be an SDK. I think it's going to be something like Watson. I think it's going to be different things. They're going to figure out what the different applications in. They're going to go mainly after pattern recognition. Think about this. Think about like how much money MySpace. Do you guys remember MySpace? Yeah. Think about how much money those guys spent on one engineer or 3 or 5 or 6 engineers just to put servers together. Those were like ops people, right? And like now we've gotten to the point where like now DevOps are even beyond AWS. So things will get better like that. But I think it's going to be, because it's such a complex problem, it's a very appealing problem for an enterprise to try to make it simple. And what's going to happen is you can make the investment very, very shortly, but I think it'll get commoditized. It's going to go to the Watsons. I don't know who your competitor is, but
the crappy open source version that everyone's too lazy to commit to.
Yeah, you got TensorFlow and that ish from Google, which sucks, by the way. And I'm not saying Watson's great. Neil's great, not Watson. So I'm not saying that Watson's not great. Listen. Neil's a good front man, so the band must be good. So, but I'm saying it's like, wouldn't you agree with any of that? Like, when you get to pattern recognitions, when you have to get, AI is not simple. You have to get a data scientist. You have to get an engineer who understands neuroscience. And on top of that, you have to get different people behind it. So this is a very, very appealing problem for people to like try to figure out and try to make it more simple, but it will become AWS. I guarantee you it's going to become to AWS.
I actually agree with you, surprisingly to you maybe, but I think we're headed in that direction where if you think of certain aspects of AI as potentially being microservices or something that we can implement via an API, and one of the companies that I worked with, a startup up in Canada, has an intelligent content discovery service that's addressable via an API, and it uses behind the scenes a very rich semantic network, semantic graph to go find that information, but you don't have to know a thing about that to use it.
That's right.
As a YouTube streamer, I hate that company.
All right, thanks, guys. We're a little short on time, so I want to make sure the audience gets a chance to ask some questions. So we'll open it up for the audience right now. I don't know if we have mics for the audience or anything. Okay.
Sorry, Neil.
Question, there's a lot of talk right now about AI, machine learning, and automation replacing jobs. And actually, I'll focus on AI and machine learning. And curious for those of you that are in industries or companies that actually are marching towards replacing some of the work that people do. Just curious to get your take on like what you're actually seeing happen out there right now, and just kind of your thoughts on where that's going and how that landscape is going to change.
Yeah, so it's progressive because right now AI is replacing a lot of remedial jobs and there's automation too. So like you have McDonald's ordering machines, you have like very simple tasks that are getting replaced by machines, and as we progress and it becomes more intelligent, it gets further and further down the line. The next to go is more of the white collar jobs. It's going to be legal, accounting. These are real talks that are happening about like basic bookkeeping. If you have good AI, is completely unnecessary. And honestly, things like QuickBooks already have some subtle automation in there that makes it really easy to manage yourself. So as it progresses, though, the thing about and that's why we look at it is I think our jobs in terms of marketers, my actual company, is the last thing to go, because creativity and the idea of like coming up with a campaign or coming up with that creative aspect of marketing does take a lot more now. And it seems like it's nuanced. It seems like it's something people do from their gut. They come up with an idea. But at the point that AI can work fast enough to read everything about you and understand who you are. Let's say you're on a flight to Portland, not right now, but let's say it's the winter, you're going to Portland from LA or Irvine, and it knows your entire shopping habit. It knows you don't have a jacket, and you get an ad on your phone when you're getting on the plane, hey, we'll have this jacket delivered to your hotel. That's where AI starts to do a lot better job marketing than we do. And at that point, that's when a lot of jobs become replaced. And that's a whole nother topic about how AI is, there's going to be a whole job problem across all industries.
All right. Do we have another question? Oh, sorry. Hold on for the mic.
Yeah, my question's for John. With VR and AR about to go pretty much explode in the mainstream, what kind of AI integration do you see happening in the next few years related to that?
So excuse the imagination or stretch, but the vision scientists at Oculus and I used to like banter back and forth and imagine things. And we talked about like the Google eye contact lens, AI assistants, and the reality of the hardware and the batteries and the evolution of those components is actually a long way off. We think we'll actually be able to interface with the human brain faster than we can get relative implants or technology to work over our eyes. We think we will actually be collaborating with AI to create a neural fantasy land or a cooperative land, create creativity. I think we all like to think we're special little flowers, but there's been AI competitions to build apps on the Android and iOS store that have out-created each other. Whereas we have a couple 100,000 designers and creators now, the AI is only going to need 100. But I see very much kind of a Sword Art Online where we're neurally interfaced with AI eventually, and probably quicker than we can create the technology to functionally interface with it.
All right. Another question? The gentleman in the tie?
Yes, as a kind of a follow-up to what he was talking about, we're a defense contracting company and use IMI and AR and VR and so forth for both training and maintenance functions and other functions. And we're looking at integrating AI into this. And as you're talking about, that may be good for the future, but right now, there is definitely a need to be able to integrate AI into the applications that are out there for actual work functions and day-to-day operations that will make a job perform better and take the person that has a limited set of knowledge as he goes out into the field to work on things. One of the problems that's out there right now that the government is running into is it's being strained by commercial enterprises. For example, pilots. There is a big drain now on military pilots from the commercial industry because they're getting a retirement function where a lot of people my age and so forth are getting out of the field, and they are expanding and having to drag these pilots out of the military, offering them better pay, better services, et cetera, to go with that. So the need is there to be able to take a person that's not as skilled, doesn't have all of the training doesn't have the years of experience, but still be able to give him those functions. And if you look at a maintenance person or somebody that it takes a long time to bring up to speed, that kind of application is a prerequisite, really, to go forward into this type of an industry.
Sorry to interrupt, sir, but we have very little bit of time. Do you have a question for the panel?
Yes. How do you see that going forward? How do you see that integration happening in this world? The reason I brought that up is because of what John had said over there, because I don't think we can wait that long. We have to get this thing enrolled, even though we don't have everything working right now.
Okay.
So John will build you many R2D2 units for $10 million each.
I don't know, 10 million's a little cheap. He did say DOD. I see, I have three friends right now working in VR teaching. One is forkliftsimulator.com, a little plug for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually teach people how to safely drive a forklift in VR. One is more complex. You actually interact with a robot to teach it how to weld, interact, pick up safely in its instruction set, knowing no programming language at all, using the Oculus touch controllers and going here, adjust here, touch here, weld here, move here, do this, do that, and then hit play, and the robot simulates what's going on and then learns that instruction set. Much like our kids are playing Minecraft games where you program to build the environment, I see VR now doing that with those sorts of jobs.
So John, back to what he was saying, it makes complete sense that we would build these applications for that purpose ahead of time. Why? Because you guys pay a lot of money.
Money, but it's common sense too. It removes a lot of the expense and infrastructure.
Well, it's defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think more generally, a lot of the things with augmented reality in terms of helping a maintenance person visualize the repair that they're making or whatever could be better informed if you had additional information coming to them in a real time too, that knew the context they were working in and maybe problems they're having. It could talk to the assistant and have the information come to them while they're working on it. I agree with you that some of the delivery vehicles, I think, are what's holding us back. It's not necessarily the ability to find the right information contextually. It's to figure out how to get that to the person. Do you have a voice that speaks to them and some sort of thing? Do they have to wear an earphone, or can they see it presented in I guess there was a company that's working on making an iPhone and putting it in a little thing with your glasses and reflecting it on there, so you can see that, a very simple $99 virtual reality kind of tool. And so I think that's where a lot of the focus needs to be, is integrating the physical things with the informational things, and making it a practical, simple thing that somebody can use that isn't like too cumbersome.
Yeah. It comes back to collaboration. When we look at the phone, we look at the computer, we look at the internet, it's communication. And anyone who's run a company, managed a team, or even worked on a team knows how difficult it is to get 30 people in a place for training. Now I can have 5 experts and 25 people learning, all in VR, no matter where they're at.
All right. Question over here. Please wait for the mic.
When you're managing a technology, let's say Watson, for example, is there an extent, like a power consumption, even a kernel that is limited in how you're managing it, or is it just extensive?
Neil, you get a question, bro.
The moderators get questions. What have you guys seen in terms of power consumption?
0.
That's very impressive.
Well, it's actually like $1, but okay.
We chew up power. We're multi-GPU threading. So, and one thing I have found interesting is I no longer need GPUs. I use CPUs only now, because unless you are trying to be Waymo and pulling in live stream feed, or you're trying to be Amazon or Google managing multiple data feeds, I now only need to process that 1% of information or operate on limited field information, and I don't need to spend the power anymore.
I feel like Neil gave us a trick question. What's up?
There's no trick question. I think a lot of people recognize that the advancement of software, the hardware is now the constraint, and we need to figure out how we can do hardware better, not just in terms of just even energy consumption, but computing power.
Yeah.
If you think about the data that's getting generated, a lot of it is video or image. requires a lot of computational power.
Yeah, you actually don't need to worry about that stuff these days. So, like, you don't really need to worry about that. And if you are, move to Anaheim because Disney actually subsidizes the power. So if you can find a space out there, it'd be good. But I don't think you'll need it. I really don't.
The opposite side of that too is what I was saying earlier, collecting that expertise. We need a way to collect and share the expertise so that we don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's been
and you know, I think that's what's going to happen is we have great tools. Like, you don't really need to, like, Watson can be great, and there's other tools out there too. But you can actually assemble a lot of people to, like, try to gather data. If you can get the data, that's a hard part, is getting the data. So if you can figure out a way to, like, really candy coat everything to get the data from your people, that's the challenge. Once you can do that, you can, you know, either hire people or use technologies to try to crunch that data and try to make sense of it so that you can actually, you know, move your business forward. But a lot of these things, and I think IBM's done a great job about becoming one of the first platforms that actually kind of like gives you the platform to build this stuff. It's like AWS for AI and ML. Anyway, I don't mean to plug your stuff.
I appreciate it, but I think we just have time for maybe one last question.
Yes,
One real quick question. This lady up in front.
Okay, and this is a question for you, Eric. You said you've got a marketing company, and right now one of the biggest trends is going towards Facebook campaigns, advertising on Facebook. Are you doing any AI and using machine learning in that space?
Yeah. So.
And how are you doing it?
Quick answer, yes. So that's back to the pattern recognition side of it. So where people went wrong on the use of machine learning with Facebook is the optimization of distributing ads and actually spinning up creative. The problem is, like, really simple example, where the level of artificial intelligence right now, if we run two different advertisements, one says 40% off this shirt, the other one just says this shirt's great. Obviously, 40% off is going to sell a lot more directly. And the problem is, like, that little nuance that a person looks at and goes, duh, AI just goes, oh, this one's making more money, spend more money on this ad. And so those simple things about not understanding just the brand nuances and things like that aren't there yet, so that doesn't work. But on the reactionary side, understanding different sides to, like, what types of people are liking the products, analyzing, like, large cohorts of data about their customer base. Really good example of this is my last company was an activewear brand, and we were trying to figure out who our customer was and what they all had in common. And when we analyzed their likes on Facebook and what they did, of course they liked being active. They were buying activewear. They liked running. They liked the beach. They liked the very typical things that someone that likes to buy activewear does. But the one thing that they had more in common than anything was that they liked Starbucks, which we would have never guessed. There was no pattern that we would have spotted that. But the reason was this was 5 years ago, and Starbucks had become this very trendy thing. Everyone was Instagramming Starbucks and taking pictures with it, and Starbucks was very trendy. And what we found was that actually liking Starbucks on Facebook was the best indicator that people would want to buy our product because they were looking to be trendy. So targeting that is using, again, machine learning was where we were able to educate. And we continue to do that with everyone we work with.
All right. I know that some of you guys had questions. We didn't have time. I'm sure maybe the panelists will be hanging around for a little bit, so feel free to reach out to them. With that, I'd like to thank our panelists, John, Tony, Eric, and Andrew. Let's give them a big round of applause.
And thank you to our moderator.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you guys for coming out.
Do you have a card?
I do.